The John family case, a tragic incident that unfolded in San Francisco, serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities surrounding domestic violence. This case, which garnered significant media attention, involved a series of harrowing events that ultimately led to the loss of lives within the family. The details of this case are not just a narrative of sorrow, they reflect deeper societal issues that demand our attention. As we delve into the specifics of the John family tragedy, it is crucial to approach the topic with sensitivity and an understanding of the broader implications. The significance of this case lies not only in the heartbreaking outcome but also in the lessons it offers regarding the psychological and social dynamics that often underpin domestic violence. By examining the circumstances that led to this family's downfall, we can begin to unravel the intricate web of factors that contribute to such devastating situations. Domestic violence is not merely an isolated incident, it is a pervasive issue that affects countless families across various demographics. Understanding the psychological aspects, such as the impact of trauma, mental health struggles, and the cycle of abuse, is essential in comprehending why individuals may find themselves trapped in these destructive environments. Furthermore, social factors, including economic stress, cultural norms, and community support systems, play a critical role in either perpetuating or alleviating the conditions that foster domestic violence. As we explore the John family case, we aim to foster a dialogue that encourages viewers to reflect on these issues thoughtfully. It is imperative to recognize that behind every statistic lies a human story, filled with pain, resilience, and the potential for change. By shedding light on the John family's experience, we hope to inspire a deeper understanding of the complexities of domestic violence and the urgent need for effective intervention strategies. This video is designed to be both informative and thought-provoking, urging viewers to consider their roles in addressing these societal challenges. As we navigate through the details of this case, let us remain mindful of the broader context and the importance of empathy in our discussions. The John family tragedy is not just a story of loss, it is a call to action for all of us to engage in meaningful conversations about prevention, support, and healing in the face of domestic violence. Before the tragic events that would forever alter their lives, the John family appeared to embody the ideal American family. Matthew and Lily John were dedicated parents, deeply committed to their children and each other. Matthew, a successful architect, was known for his innovative designs and strong work ethic, while Lily, a compassionate nurse, devoted her career to caring for others. Together, they built a life filled with love, ambition, and a shared vision for their family's future. Their home in San Francisco was a reflection of their hard work and aspirations, filled with laughter and the warmth of family life. The arrival of their first child, John, marked a joyous milestone for the couple. They embraced parenthood with enthusiasm, celebrating every moment of his growth and development. Soon after, they welcomed their daughters, Elisa and Elizabeth, into the world, further enriching their family dynamic. The initial years were filled with happiness, as the couple reveled in the joys of raising their children, creating cherished memories, and nurturing their bonds. Family outings, birthday celebrations, and holiday traditions became the fabric of their lives, reinforcing their sense of togetherness. However, the arrival of twins brought about a significant shift in the family dynamics. While the news of the twins was initially met with excitement, it soon became apparent that the demands of caring for 5 young children were overwhelming. The once harmonious household began to feel the strain of increased responsibilities and sleepless nights. Matthew, who had always been the pillar of strength, found himself grappling with the pressures of balancing work and family life. The joy that had characterized their early years began to be overshadowed by stress and exhaustion. Lily, too, faced challenges as she navigated the complexities of motherhood with 2 infants and 3 older children. The twins, while a blessing, introduced a new level of chaos that tested the family's resilience. As the days turned into months, the strain on their relationship became more pronounced. The couple, once so united in their parenting journey, began to experience moments of frustration and disconnect. The idyllic life they had built seemed to slip away, replaced by a sense of uncertainty and anxiety. This shift in family dynamics marked the beginning of a troubling chapter for the John family, foreshadowing the tragic events that would soon unfold. The pressures of parenthood, combined with the challenges of managing a growing family, created an environment that would ultimately lead to unforeseen consequences. As John grew up in the bustling household of the John family, he began to experience feelings of neglect and abandonment that would shape his emotional landscape. Despite being the eldest child, John's achievements often seemed to fade into the background, overshadowed by the attention lavished on his younger sisters, Elisa and Elizabeth. The twins, with their adorable antics and the demands of infancy, captured the family's focus, leaving John feeling increasingly invisible. While his parents celebrated milestones like his first steps and academic successes, the excitement surrounding the twins often eclipsed his accomplishments, leading him to question his worth within the family unit. In his quest for recognition, John made numerous attempts to stand out. He excelled in school, participated in sports, and sought out extracurricular activities, hoping to draw his parents' attention and approval. However, each achievement felt like a fleeting moment of joy, quickly overshadowed by the ongoing needs of his siblings. The emotional toll of this constant comparison weighed heavily on him, fostering a sense of inadequacy that began to seep into his self-esteem. As the years passed, John's feelings of neglect morphed into a profound sense of resentment. He struggled to articulate his emotions, feeling trapped in a cycle of seeking validation that never seemed to come. This internal conflict began to manifest in his behavior, leading him to seek solace in negative influences and vices. The gradual shift in John's demeanor became evident as he started to gravitate towards peers who engaged in risky behaviors. In an attempt to escape the feelings of abandonment and to assert his identity, he found himself drawn to parties, substance use, and rebellious activities that provided a temporary sense of belonging and excitement. These choices, however, only deepened his sense of isolation as he oscillated between the thrill of newfound friendships and the guilt of disappointing his family. The once bright and ambitious boy began to lose sight of his goals, succumbing to the allure of a lifestyle that offered an escape from his emotional pain. John's journey into these negative influences marked a turning point in his life as he struggled to reconcile his desire for recognition with the reality of his family's dynamics. The neglect he felt transformed into a search for acceptance in all the wrong places, leading him further away from the supportive environment he once craved. This downward spiral not only affected his relationship with his family, but also set the stage for the challenges he would face in the years to come, as he grappled with the consequences of his choices and the lingering feelings of abandonment that haunted him. By the age of 25, John had undergone a profound transformation, evolving into a troubled individual whose life was marked by poor choices and a sense of disconnection. His early feelings of neglect and abandonment had festered over the years, leading him to seek solace in the company of bad friends and involvement in underground activities. These friendships, often rooted in rebellion and a shared sense of disenchantment, provided John with a false sense of belonging. He found himself drawn into a world that thrived on risk and excitement, engaging in activities that ranged from petty crime to substance abuse. This lifestyle, while initially exhilarating, quickly spiraled into a cycle of destructive behavior that further alienated him from his family and the values he once held dear. The psychological impact of feeling unloved and unnoticed by his parents weighed heavily on John's psyche. Despite his attempts to gain recognition throughout his childhood, he felt as though his achievements were never enough to earn the affection and attention he craved. This emotional void led to deep-seated feelings of worthlessness and despair, which he attempted to mask through reckless behavior. The more he strayed from the path of success, the more he internalized the belief that he was unworthy of love and support, perpetuating a cycle of self-sabotage. In stark contrast to John's troubled existence were the lives of his successful sisters, Elisa and Elizabeth. Both had flourished academically and professionally, earning accolades and recognition that seemed to come effortlessly. Their achievements served as a constant reminder of what John felt he could never attain, deepening his sense of inadequacy. While his sisters celebrated milestones and built promising futures, John found himself trapped in a downward spiral, grappling with the consequences of his choices. The juxtaposition of their lives created an emotional chasm that John struggled to bridge. He often felt envious of their accomplishments, which only fueled his feelings of resentment towards his family. This comparison not only exacerbated his feelings of isolation but also reinforced the belief that he was a disappointment in the eyes of his parents. As John navigated his tumultuous 20s, the weight of his unresolved emotions and the choices he made began to take a toll on his mental health. He oscillated between moments of clarity and despair, caught in a battle between the desire for redemption and the pull of his destructive lifestyle. The transformation from a hopeful child to a troubled adult was a painful journey, marked by the longing for connection and the struggle to find his place in a world that felt increasingly hostile and unwelcoming. In the days leading up to the horrific acts committed by John, his state of mind was a tumultuous mix of anger, despair, and confusion. After a night of heavy drinking with friends, he returned home in a haze, the alcohol amplifying his already fragile emotional state. The laughter and camaraderie he experienced earlier felt like a distant memory as he stumbled through the door, greeted by the familiar yet suffocating silence of the house. The weight of his feelings of neglect and resentment hung heavily in the air, and he found himself spiraling deeper into a dark place, where thoughts of inadequacy and betrayal consumed him. As he navigated the dimly lit hallways, memories of his childhood flooded back, moments of feeling overlooked and unappreciated, particularly in contrast to his sisters, Elisa and Elizabeth. The alcohol clouded his judgment, and in that vulnerable state, he began to fixate on the perceived injustices he had endured. The circumstances that led to the assault on Elisa and Elizabeth were rooted in a toxic cocktail of emotions and a desperate need for validation. In his mind, he felt trapped in a world where he was constantly overshadowed by their successes. The anger that had been simmering beneath the surface erupted as he confronted the reality of his life, leading him to lash out in a moment of rage. The assault was not premeditated, rather, it was a tragic culmination of years of pent-up frustration and feelings of betrayal. In that moment, John's actions betrayed the very foundation of trust that should have existed within the family. The sisters, who had always looked up to him, were left reeling from the shocking betrayal. They had shared countless memories, laughter, and love, believing in the bond that tied them together. To have that trust shattered in such a violent manner was unfathomable. The horror of the situation was compounded by the realization that the person they had once admired and loved had become a source of fear and pain. John's actions not only inflicted physical harm but also created an emotional rift that would be difficult to mend. The family dynamic, once characterized by support and affection, was now marred by betrayal and trauma. As the gravity of what had transpired settled in, John was left grappling with the consequences of his actions, realizing that he had crossed an irreversible line. The events leading up to that fateful night were a tragic reminder of how unresolved emotions and a desperate search for validation can lead to devastating outcomes, forever altering the lives of those involved. The immediate consequences following the assaults on Elisa and Elizabeth were nothing short of devastating, leaving both sisters in a state of shock and disbelief. As the reality of what had just occurred sank in, Elisa and Elizabeth struggled to process their emotions. Fear and confusion coursed through them, mingling with feelings of betrayal from someone they had always trusted. The bond they had shared with John, their older brother, felt irreparably broken, and the safety of their home was shattered in an instant. Elisa, typically the more outspoken of the two, found herself at a loss for words, her mind racing as she tried to comprehend the violence that had erupted from John. Elizabeth, on the other hand, was paralyzed by a sense of dread, her heart pounding as she grappled with the trauma of the experience. The sisters instinctively turned to each other for support, but the emotional weight of the situation created a chasm between them as they both struggled to articulate their feelings. In the aftermath of the assaults, the family was engulfed in confusion. Matthew and Lily, who had been blissfully unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface, were suddenly thrust into a nightmare. The initial shock of the situation left them reeling, unable to grasp the full extent of what had transpired. As they pieced together the events of that night, the realization of their son's actions hit them like a tidal wave. Faced with the urgent need for medical help, they made the difficult decision to seek immediate assistance for Elisa and Elizabeth. The sisters were taken to the hospital, where medical professionals assessed their physical and emotional well-being. The gravity of the situation began to unfold, and the family was forced to confront the reality of their fractured relationships. As the days passed, a growing tension settled over the household. The once vibrant home was now steeped in silence, each family member grappling with their own emotions. Conversations that once flowed freely were replaced by an uncomfortable quiet, as Matthew and Lily struggled to find the right words to address the trauma their daughters had endured. John, meanwhile, was consumed by guilt and shame, retreating into himself as he faced the consequences of his actions. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings, creating a palpable sense of unease. The family, once united by love and shared experiences, now found themselves navigating a landscape of pain and betrayal. The silence that enveloped them was deafening, a stark reminder of the trust that had been shattered and the long road ahead toward healing. Each family member was left to confront their own demons as they grappled with the aftermath of a night that would forever alter their lives. Following the shocking discovery of the bodies, the police investigation unfolded with a sense of urgency and gravity. Initially, investigators approached the scene with the assumption that a robbery had taken place. The chaotic nature of the home, combined with signs of forced entry, led them to believe that the tragic events were the result of a break-in gone wrong. Officers meticulously combed through the premises, gathering evidence and interviewing neighbors, all while trying to piece together the timeline of events leading up to the horrific incident. However, as the investigation progressed, the narrative began to shift. Detectives soon uncovered inconsistencies in the initial assumptions, prompting them to delve deeper into the family dynamics and relationships. It was during this phase that security footage from nearby cameras became a crucial piece of evidence. The footage revealed John's presence in the vicinity around the time of the assaults, raising red flags for investigators. As they scrutinized the recordings, it became increasingly clear that John was not just a bystander but a potential suspect in the tragic events. The realization that their own son could be involved sent shockwaves through the family and the community, complicating the investigation further. For Elisa and Elizabeth, the unfolding investigation was a harrowing experience that compounded their emotional turmoil. As the sisters grappled with the trauma of the assaults, they were thrust into the spotlight as key witnesses. The pressure of recounting their experiences to law enforcement was overwhelming, forcing them to relive the horror of that night repeatedly. Each interview felt like a fresh wound, reopening the scars of betrayal and fear. The sisters found themselves caught in a whirlwind of emotions, anger, confusion, and profound sadness as they navigated the complexities of the investigation. The growing realization that their brother was being scrutinized as a suspect added another layer of distress. They had once shared a bond with John, and the thought of him being implicated in such a heinous act was unfathomable. The emotional toll of the investigation weighed heavily on them as they struggled to reconcile their memories of a loving brother with the reality of the situation. As the investigation continued to unfold, the sisters faced the daunting task of processing their trauma while grappling with the implications of their brother's potential involvement. The tension within the family escalated, and the once close-knit unit was now fractured, each member dealing with their own pain and confusion. The investigation not only sought justice for the victims but also forced the family to confront the painful truths that lay beneath the surface, forever altering their lives in the process. As the police investigation progressed, the growing suspicion surrounding John became increasingly evident. Initially, he had presented himself as a concerned brother, expressing shock and grief over the tragic events that had unfolded. However, as detectives delved deeper into the case, they began to notice inconsistencies in his statements. John's accounts of his whereabouts on the night of the assaults were vague and conflicting, raising red flags for investigators. Each time he was questioned, subtle discrepancies emerged, leading the police to scrutinize him more closely. The mounting evidence against him, coupled with the security footage that placed him near the scene, intensified the pressure on John. As the investigation continued, the emotional weight of the situation began to take its toll on him. The realization that he was becoming the prime suspect in the eyes of law enforcement was overwhelming. John found himself spiraling into a state of despair, grappling with guilt and shame over his actions. The internal conflict reached a breaking point, and in a moment of vulnerability, he broke down emotionally. It was during this breakdown that John ultimately confessed to the assaults. The confession came as a shock to the investigators, who had been piecing together the evidence but had not anticipated such a dramatic turn. In a private moment, overwhelmed by the gravity of his actions and the pain he had caused, John admitted to the assaults, revealing the turmoil that had driven him to such a horrific act. His confession was not just an acknowledgement of guilt, it was a cathartic release of the pent-up emotions he had been carrying for years. The impact of the sisters' testimonies on the investigation was profound. Elisa and Elizabeth, despite their own trauma, had been brave enough to share their experiences with law enforcement. Their detailed accounts provided crucial context to the events leading up to the assaults, painting a clearer picture of the family dynamics and the emotional struggles they had faced. The sisters' courage in recounting their ordeal not only strengthened the case against John, but also highlighted the deep-seated issues within the family that had contributed to the tragic outcome. Their testimonies served as a stark reminder of the consequences of unresolved pain and neglect, further emphasizing the need for accountability. As the investigation reached its climax, the sisters' voices became a powerful force in the pursuit of justice. The emotional fallout from the entire ordeal left an indelible mark on the family, forever altering their relationships and the way they viewed one another. John's arrest and subsequent confession marked a turning point in the investigation, but it also opened the door to a painful reckoning for the entire family, forcing them to confront the devastating realities of their shared history. The trial of John was a highly publicized event that captivated the community and drew significant media attention. As the courtroom proceedings commenced, the atmosphere was charged with tension and anticipation. The prosecution presented a compelling case against John, meticulously outlining the evidence that had been gathered during the investigation. This included security footage, forensic evidence, and the emotional testimonies of his sisters, Elisa and Elizabeth, which painted a vivid picture of the tragic events that had unfolded. The prosecution's narrative highlighted John's conflicting statements and the psychological turmoil that had led to his actions, aiming to establish a clear motive rooted in years of unresolved family issues. As the trial progressed, the defense attempted to portray John as a troubled individual who had succumbed to overwhelming emotions rather than a cold-blooded perpetrator. They argued that his actions were the result of a mental breakdown, seeking to evoke sympathy from the jury. However, the evidence presented was damning, and the emotional weight of the sisters' testimonies resonated deeply within the courtroom. The public reaction to the trial was one of outrage and disbelief. The case sparked intense discussions about domestic violence, mental health, and the complexities of family dynamics. Social media platforms buzzed with commentary as people expressed their shock over the betrayal of trust within the John family. Many were drawn to the story, not only because of the heinous nature of the crimes, but also due to the tragic circumstances that had led to such a devastating outcome. The media coverage was relentless, with news outlets providing daily updates on the trial, often sensationalizing the details to capture public interest. This constant scrutiny added pressure to the proceedings and intensified the emotional toll on everyone involved, particularly Elisa and Elizabeth. For the sisters, facing their brother in court was an excruciating experience. They had already endured the trauma of the assaults, and now they were forced to relive those painful memories in front of a packed courtroom. The emotional strain was palpable as they took the stand, recounting their experiences and the impact of John's actions on their lives. Each testimony felt like a double-edged sword. While they sought justice, they also had to confront the reality of their brother's betrayal. The sisters' bravery in sharing their stories resonated with many, garnering support from the community and advocacy groups focused on domestic violence. As the trial unfolded, it became clear that the emotional scars left by the events would linger long after the verdict was delivered. The courtroom proceedings, coupled with the public outrage and media frenzy, created a complex tapestry of emotions that highlighted the profound impact of the case on the John family and the community at large. Ultimately, the trial served as a painful reminder of the consequences of unresolved issues within families and the urgent need for open conversations about mental health and support systems. In this video, we have explored the tragic events surrounding the John family, a heartbreaking story that has left an indelible mark on both the family and the broader community. We began by detailing the seemingly perfect life of the John family, highlighting the initial happiness they experienced with the birth of their children, John, Elisa, and Elizabeth. However, as we delved deeper, we uncovered the emotional turmoil that John faced, stemming from feelings of neglect and abandonment, which ultimately led to the horrific assaults on his sisters. The aftermath of these events not only shattered the family's bond, but also sent shockwaves through their community, prompting discussions about the complexities of domestic violence and the importance of mental health awareness. Throughout our discussion, we emphasized the critical need to recognize the signs of domestic violence and the importance of seeking help. It is vital for individuals to understand that they are not alone and that support is available. Whether it's through professional counseling, community resources, or simply reaching out to trusted friends and family, taking that first step can be life-changing. The John family story serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences that can arise when emotional struggles go unaddressed. As we conclude this video, we encourage you to reflect on the key points we've discussed and consider how they resonate within your own life or the lives of those around you. Raising awareness about domestic violence is crucial, and your engagement can make a difference. If you found this video informative and impactful, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you'll stay updated on future content that addresses important social issues and personal stories that matter. Additionally, we invite you to like this video and share it with your friends and family. Spreading awareness can help foster conversations about domestic violence and mental health, ultimately contributing to a more supportive and understanding community. Your voice matters, and together, we can create a ripple effect that encourages others to seek help and support. Thank you for joining us in this important discussion. Let's continue to raise awareness, support one another, and work towards preventing tragedies like the one experienced by the John family. Remember, recognizing the signs and taking action can save lives. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's make a difference together.